song, spoken word, and multimedia. So I'd like you to sit back, relax, and enjoy what we have for you here. But before you get too comfy, I'd like to stand up and stretch your legs and welcome on our own team.
House of the
watch the multimedia video and see what these guys discussed.
She picked it up in the top 40 rack and then I read your interview in Rolling Stone. consider these words tonight. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It is not rude. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails.
Confession is the road to healing. Forgiveness is the promised land. Though I'm reaching out my conviction, I'm longing to make amends. Oh yeah, so I'm sorry for the words I've spoken, for I betrayed a friend. We've got a love that's worth preserving, and upon our well defend. Oh, so just between you and me, I've got something to say. Wanna get it straight before the sun goes down. Just between you and me, confession needs to be made. Recompense is my way to freedom. Just between you and me, I've got something to say. Wanna get it straight before the sun goes down. Just between you and me, confession needs to be made. Recompense is my way to freedom. It's my way, it's my way. Don't you know? Yeah, it's my way to freedom. It's my way to freedom. Don't you know? Oh, everybody needs a little love sometime.
Good evening. Praise. Let's give everyone thanks. Got a fever? Right. Doesn't the team do a wonderful job? Can we just put our hands together?
I want you just to think for a minute about this. This is a mindset I want you to take on just for a minute. Imagine if there are no strangers in the world and everybody was just a friend that you haven't met yet. Think of Porirua and the impact that would make on this community here. If everybody would look at everybody else around this community as if they were a friend and not a stranger. Now just widen it a little bit and think about New Zealand and the impact that would make on this country if every person would look at every other person as a friend and not as a stranger. Now go global. Think global. What's that going to do to the world? What would happen in Israel right now if people looked across the border and said to one another, there's a friend over there that I haven't met yet. Can you see the power there is in friendship? Well, I reckon we should start that power right here now. And I know a lot of you are friends here tonight, and some of you aren't. We've got visitors here, and I commend you for coming tonight. I think we should give them a hand too to come to a topic like friends. But what I want to do is just turn to someone and just give them a friendship, a hand of friendship, just a welcome of some sort of friendship, a gesture of friendship. Because there's no point in talking about this stuff if we're not going to do it, right? I've got a couple of theories about what real friends are. And the first one is this. Real friends are those who, when you make a fool of yourself, they don't think you've done a permanent job. To them, it's just something you've done. And it's kind of like, oh, that's just Greg. He does that sometimes. Don't worry, he's a good guy. And we have that sort of grace for other people. The other thing is that real friends are like diamonds. They're precious and rare. The shallow friends are just like autumn leaves. And you can find them everywhere. And we've all had our fair share of shallow friends. And that's not bad. That's a good thing, because we all need shallow friends, because shallow friends are the ones that turn into real friends. I believe that it really is the condition of the human heart that we really crave these deep and meaningful relationships and friendships. And that's what we all really want. But the reality is, so many of us, myself included, wallow around in the shallow region and miss out on what friendship can really be all about. And that's going deeper. There's a proverb that says that a man of many friends or companions may come to ruin, but there is a friend that sticks closer than a brother. And there was one point in my life where there's someone here tonight, Graham Pledger, where he stuck close to me like a brother when I needed him. And they're the sort of friends we need, because when times get tough, that's when we need tough friends. The other thing I want to mention is that many people can have a lot of companions and friends and feel totally isolated, totally alone. They can be part of a group or an activity or something, and they can just, you would never know, but internally, they are lonely people. How can that happen when you're amongst so many friends? It's got to be because the friends are shallow, doesn't it? The reality is that all friends are not created equal. They're not. We've got different levels of friendship in this room. Lots of different levels of friendship. And that's good. That's how it should be. But what I want to do is identify what those levels of friendship are. And for tonight, the first one I want to identify is acquaintance. Acquaintance are the people that we're involved with in community, in work, at sport, school, whatever. They're the people that we bump into all the time and say, g'day, have a chat, and they're friends. They're acquaintances. The next type of friends, the second level, the growth level. That's when those friendships start to go deeper. That's when we start to share a little bit more. That's when things start to happen. We're not just bumping into these people, we're actually making time out to spend with them. And that's the beginning of real friendship. The thing about level 1 and 2 is that there's no risk involved in these friendships. There's no risk at all. We can have lots of these things, and whether these friends come or go, it doesn't matter, really, in the scheme of things. The trouble is, when we enter into level 3, comes the potential to get hurt. Because now we're dealing in trust and confiding. And guys, we've got to take it on the chin here, because when it comes to confiding, we just don't cut it. We're not as good at it as the women are. In fact, as you can see, some of them live for it. So now we have the element of risk, and the fourth level and the last one is intimacy. That's where we go that deep that the heart and the soul are totally exposed, vulnerable. Who likes being vulnerable? Not me. No way. So there are the levels we're going to work with tonight. The trouble is, as the risk increases, so does the elusiveness of friendship. Because I'm sure that we all want number 4, but so few of us have that in all of our friendships, or a lot of them. Don't you agree? And the reason for that is this. This little girl, she's had a hard day. She's at school and somebody said to her, "You can't play with us, you're too ugly." That's what they do. That's what children are like. It's sad. Or, "You're too whatever." Or like Diane up here, "You're a disease." Or, even worse still, we're still like the other day I heard, and this is sad, an 8-year-old girl whose mother died last year and wasn't allowed to play, a bit of banter back and forth, and just because I've got just because you haven't got a mother. They're the sort of things that kids will say to each other. And there starts the damage with friendship. That's where the scars start to take place in the heart of people. And we all have our fair share of those things, and they all end up like these bags up here as baggage. You see, for this little girl, it's just too hard. Friendship's got too hard. She doesn't want to go there anymore. And who can blame her? Come on, we've all been there. So what is the baggage? What is the baggage? And we could spend all night talking about this one, so we're going to go through a few briefly. The first one I want to talk about is somebody training. And there was a person in this drama here tonight you probably identify with was very good at somebody training. You see, somebody training is all about it's about the external things that we become dependent on for our own self-worth. Things like money, things like power, things like looks, things like our sporting prowess, our intellectual intelligence. Those are the external things that we get thrown into the world, and people, society, and our parents tell us that we've got to be somebody. And I think one of the sporting companies had that catchphrase a few years ago. And in trying to be somebody, the trouble with that is we get slightly off centre in who we actually are. Because if we focus on the external things, then we forget about what actually connects us as people. And that's internal, that's inside. So somebody training can really get in the way. And who was it in the drama tonight that was right in this somebody training? Diane. She was a classic. The next thing is fear factors. All of us have fear sign in our lives at some point. And in terms of friendship, fear of being put down is a big one. Fear of not measuring up or being accepted. And the one I want to just mention is the whole thing of fear of rejection. You see, in places like Porirua, I guess, we have a whole society of families that are growing up. And, the reality is one of the parents has rejected the family quite often. And that's for a lot of families. And we've seen it in our own children, actually. At one point in their lives, there was a rejection that took place. And unfortunately for one of them, they were at a stage in their life where they hadn't developed emotionally where they could express the way they were feeling. And what happened was rejection set in. And in terms of friendships, it was really sad to watch, but it was very hard for this young person to develop and maintain healthy friendships. Fortunately, that's changed because healing's taken place now. And we can see that, the friendships are really happening now, and there's self-worth, and it's exciting to see. But fear will cripple us in friendship. There is no doubt about it. Betrayal. Betrayal's a big one. Who's been betrayed? It's very hard not to be involved in friendships and at some point not get betrayed. And the trouble with betrayal is that, the more betrayal, the harder it is to go to level 3. You don't want to trust people if you've been betrayed a few times. It's much easier to be at level 1 and 2 and just have friends and be happy and, life is good. But you just don't go deep because betrayal cripples people. And I understand what betrayal is all about. It makes you fearful about reaching out in friendship because why would you want to if people are going to betray you? And the last one is offence. I'm amazed at relationships and friendships that break up because of a little offence. And I'm not talking about big things that, where real damage has been done. I'm talking about little things that get in the way of friendship. There's a movie on TV called The Straight Story. I don't know. Have anyone seen The Straight Story? Well, I recommend you see it. It's about a guy called Alvin Straight in America. It's not one of your Hollywood glitz movies. But what happened was at about the age of 60 or 70, he'd been brought up with a brother, and they'd been like that their whole lives, and they loved each other. And they spent all their time with her. They grew up with each other on a farm. They were close friends. And they had a fight. they had too much to drink, they had a fight at the age of 60 or 70, would you believe it? 10 years later, they hadn't seen each other, and Alvin gets a message from his brother, and he says, the message was that his brother had had a stroke and he could be dying. And Alvin, he's on a crutch, he can't drive, can't see properly. He's got a tractor, it's like a lawnmower tractor. He gets on this thing with a trailer and he travels across a couple of states in America, a few thousand miles. And it's the story of his journey, and it's a wonderful story. But on the journey you find out that Alvin can't even remember what the offence was. And when he meets up with his brother, who potentially was dying, these two old men face each other, and the emotionally charged moment is just incredible. For you guys that like having a few tears over a movie, I personally recommend it. Some of the ladies will probably, we won't say that. I'll probably bawl, it's a real chick flick. It's wonderful. But the reality is, it was death. It was death that made him wake up. Because in the face of death, what's an offence, for goodness sake? How many of us have an offence that's in our past? If we were to die tomorrow, would we rather put it right? Or if that person was to die, would we rather put it right? You see, what the proverb says about offence is, a man's wisdom gives him patience. It is his glory to overlook an offence. Of course, you don't keep overlooking the same offence, because that's not love at all. I want to ask you now, and if you're sitting next to a close friend, you might like to ask them what they think of you, but what are your close friends like? Do they have any of these characteristics? Are they gossips? We saw it on stage here today. Are they honest? Are they negative? I worked with a guy called, in a company I was involved with called Brad Murray, and he talked about negative people like this, because he was involved in sales, and you can't have negative people around sales, right? He said they're like vampires, they suck the living blood out of you. That's what he said. Now, I'm not saying that, we don't all have a bit of negativity at times, but I'm just saying, for him, it wasn't healthy to be around negative people. And for some of you, there are some negative people, maybe it's not healthy to be around all the time. I'm not saying cut them loose, I'm just saying sometimes we need to give them a bit of slack so that we can grow and then we can help them. Do they put others down? Do they get angry? Are they mean and selfish? And are they there when you need them? At a point in my life when it was a bit of a low point really, and I looked around and there was a couple of close friends that stuck with me, and that was Graham and it was my wife Yvonne. There were a lot of other friends in my life, don't get me wrong, a lot of shallow friends. And I felt quite, hurt, because nobody rang to see what was going on. And I know by the gossip thing that, people knew something was happening in my life because there was a bit of talk. But the thing about it was, when I looked at it and when I examined it and when I evaluated it, I realised that it wasn't about other people at all. The fact that I had shallow friendships had everything to do with me and nothing to do with them at all. And the reality is, a friend loves at all times and a brother is made for adversity. And I just wasn't a friend that loved at all times. And quite frankly, quite a few of those things up there were characteristic of my life. Now I know that's not true for most of you in here because I know you. But at that point in my life, that's what I was like. And what I want to ask you now is, sometimes we have to take a checkup. In terms of friendship, we really have to look at ourselves. We can't look at people around us and say, well, hey, they're not the friend that I really want to be like or I want to be with. We've got to look at ourselves and say, what kind of a friend am I? What kind of a friend are you? Because the reality is that, if we want those deep and meaningful relationships, then we've got to go and be that person first, and if we want to have those shallow relationships, then we can have plenty of those. All we have to do is be that type of person. So when I looked at it, I realised that the friends that I had were just a reality and a result of who I was. And the simple truth is this, you'll be the same in 5 years' time, except for the books you read and the people you hang out with. So the buck stops with us. I want to talk about the ultimate friend now. Because if we really want to get this friendship right, this friendship thing right, we have to have something to work from. And there's no doubt that there was a person that walked on this earth who had more friends than any other person and still does, who made a bigger impact on the world than anybody else has. And this is what he had to say. Greater love is no one than this, that he laid down his life for his friends. Now, I don't know about you, but sometimes I have trouble giving up an hour or a couple of hours for my friends. To comprehend actually laying down my life for a friend, I haven't got there yet. He went on to say, you're my friends if you do what I command, and I don't like being told what to do. So when somebody says something like that to me, I think the barriers go up. But then to see the command is that all you have to do is love each other, what's the catch? In this verse, in this chapter in the Bible, he says it twice. He said, love each other as I've loved you. And then he goes on to say, love each other again. What is this love that we're talking about here? Because I need to know. And it's this. It's the verse that was read out tonight. It's patient and kind, and it doesn't envy, it doesn't boast, it's not proud. It's not rude, and it's not self-seeking. And it's definitely not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. There's this passage in the Bible about Judas, the night he betrayed Jesus. And, Jesus knew what was going to happen. He knew this man was going to betray him. He knew he was going to be killed. And when Judas approached Jesus, Jesus said, do what you came for, friend. How many of us could say that we could do something like that? I mean, if somebody looks at me, if somebody strikes me or somebody says something horrible to me, I can't call them a friend. I don't call them a friend. But Jesus can and Jesus does, because the sort of love we're dealing with here is a higher love. It's a love that I'm working on, that he had mastered, that he was love. And we need to understand that we can't necessarily comprehend that in its fullness straight away. It doesn't delight in evil but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, trusts, hopes, always perseveres, and love never fails. And this verse really is talking about the life of Jesus and what he demonstrated when he walked on the earth. And I experienced this love probably first 7 years ago. And first of all, what had to happen for me was I had to come to a place of humility for myself. And then what I experienced was that I prayed to God and I said, God, I need help, because somebody told me to. And it wasn't a Christian, it was somebody else who had a religious family. But he recognized the need, because I was involved with things that were spiritual in nature, of which I didn't understand, and they were getting out of control. So he said, look, you need to get on your knees and pray, this guy said. So I said, I'll try anything now, because things are getting a bit desperate. So I did. And for the next 6 months, I experienced this love through different people. I experienced it through a man out in Newtown called, I'm not going to mention names, but he was tied up with the Wellesley Church in the city. I experienced it in Porirua by a couple that are out there in the Christian church out there. I experienced it for a couple up here at the North City Church in Waitangarua, the Apostolic Church. I experienced it with a couple of friends from Titahi Bay, Joe and Sandy. And they were all from different churches, but I could see in them something that I hadn't seen before, because my eyes had been opened. I could see a love that was pure and that was sort of kind of like what I would like. And it was really obvious for the first time in my life. And it's the love that this verse is talking about. And the only reason they had, or that this love was obvious to me, was because the common factor in each one of their lives was that Jesus Christ was the foundation of what they believed. And Jesus Christ was the foundation of how they lived their life, the way he taught. I saw it recently in my friend Rob, who came here last week. Rob didn't go to a church. What happened for Rob was his daughter died some years ago. It was a cot death, and he'd wrestled about this with God. And Rob wouldn't go to a church, the old pride thing that some of us have. And what happened was he went to a pub one day, and in the pub there was an evangelist there. And the evangelist, God used this evangelist to speak into his life, and he said, Rob, about your child, the one that died. And he said, blah, blah, blah. And he spoke through this evangelist to Rob. And from that day, Rob started praying and reading the Bible. And I caught up with Rob a couple of weeks ago, and his whole life has changed. He's a different person. He's much, much different person. And it was wonderful to see. It didn't happen in the church. It didn't happen in a traditional way. It didn't happen with ceremony and all that sort of thing. It just happened because God cared about this guy and could see the struggle that he was having, and Rob was seeking God about the situation. It was wonderful. Now, Rob's been talking to my brother, and Rob's a mutual friend of my brother's, and Rob was telling my brother about all these supernatural things that were happening to him. And my brother, he's a great guy, but he's not a Christian, so he didn't understand what Rob was talking about. And Rob was talking to him and explaining these things, and Kerry came to me and said, hey, our friend Rob, I think he's lost the plot. He's seen angels and all these things that are happening to him. And of course, Rob was having trouble explaining to Kerry what was actually happening. But I could see through it because, I know what it's like when you first experience those things. You don't know what's going on. Actually, Rob didn't see angels. He was saying that people were angels and all this stuff. My brother said to me, look, yeah, okay, but, Rob, he needed that. He needs something like that in his life. And I thought to myself, oh, Kerry, if only you knew. If only we didn't have to come to a point in our lives where we really needed God. If only we could just do that without being brought to that point. And I said to him, Kerry, it's not about what we do in this life. It's about the choices we make in this life, about where we spend eternity. And that was the end of the conversation. But the story is, Rob has experienced all this love. And when he was here last week, he said at the end of the service and what have you, he said, look, Greg, I've got all this love, and I've got to go home and give some to my wife. And that's how the way he's feeling all the time at the moment. And it's this love we're talking about up here. In the dance, there's a lyric, there's a line there. It says, what kind of friend can take the ache losing face for friendship's sake? And if we think about Jesus, when he was doing what he was doing, he was healing people, seeing people raised from the dead, and he was sought after by many, many people, and he was popular, and people were following him. And to think what he had to go through and losing face and being humiliated and being mocked and being spat on and being treated badly and finally and being killed. What kind of a love or what kind of a friend can take the ache losing face for friendship's sake? The reality is that he did it, and he did it for each one of us, and he did it like this on a cross, and he did it so that each one of us in this room could be reconciled back to God. He did it so that we could have life, and he said, look, I don't want to just give you life, I want to give it to you abundantly. I want you to really enjoy your life. And that's what it means to be in relationship with him, and we know that. I just want to finish by encouraging and challenging that for those of us that are at level 1 and 2 in your friendships, I want to encourage you to make those level 1 and 2 friendships level 3. For those of you that are struggling to find level 1 and 2 friends, I want to encourage you to actually feel the fear and do it anyway, to actually break out of that mold and reach out to people, because you can't wait your whole life for people to actually try and find you. You've got to reach out. And for those of you that don't know Jesus as the ultimate friend, I just want to say to you tonight that he's available. He says to everybody, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened. With things like this. This is my betrayal, my rejection, the offences, and my somebody training. He says, come to me and I will give you rest for your souls. It's as simple as that. He came so that we could have life, so that we could be reconciled back to God, and he's here to give that to you tonight. I'm going to close in prayer now. Father God, Lord, forgive me for the times, Lord God, when I've mucked up in my friendships. And Lord, help us, each one of us, Lord God, to really move into a new realm in our friendship, Lord. To recognise where we can do better, and to recognise, Lord, the people that are around us that we can reach out to, and Lord, and the quality of friendships that we can have. And Lord, help us to really nurture those friendships, and to do it with a love that come into the world through Jesus. To do it with that love, and to do it and to persevere with it, Lord, because we know that love never fails. Help us, I pray, in Jesus' name. Amen.
We're going to have a cup of tea and coffee out there right now. So please can we just recognise the